I had never been a fan of dentist appointments. The bright lights, the sterile smell of the clinic, the sharp tools, it all made me uneasy. But skipping my regular checkups was not an option. Dr. Reynolds, my dentist, had been reminding me of that since my first visit. He was professional and reassuring, and though I had always felt a bit nervous around him, there was something about his calm presence that kept me coming back. Dr. Reynolds was in his mid-30s, tall, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to catch every detail. He had that kind of smile that put most patients at ease. Though it had the opposite effect on me. I felt my heart race whenever he leaned close, checking my teeth with those gentle but precise hands. Today was no different. As I waited in the chair trying to distract myself by scrolling through my phone, he walked in, wearing his white coat, a friendly smile on his face. "Good to see you again," he said, his eyes meeting mine briefly before he adjusted his gloves. "How have you been?" I shrugged, doing my best to appear relaxed. "Pretty good, just the usual." He nodded, setting up his tools on the tray. "Glad to hear it. We will just do a quick checkup today, and we will see if there is anything we need to work on." His tone was professional, but there was always a warmth in his voice that I could not quite place. I lay back, and as he adjusted the overhead light, he leaned close, his cologne filling the space between us. It was clean, subtle, and somehow comforting. "Open wide for me," he said, his voice soft. I did as he asked, feeling the familiar mix of anxiety and something else. It was the same feeling I got every time he was this close, his hands brushing my skin as he worked. As he examined my teeth, his fingers brushed against my lip, sending a shiver down my spine. I tried to tell myself it was just the cold gloves. But deep down, I knew it was more than that. He had this effect on me, and I could never quite shake it. I focused on the ceiling, counting the tiles, trying to ignore the warmth spreading through my chest. "Everything looks pretty good," he said, his voice breaking the silence. "But I do see a bit of buildup on the back molar. We will do a quick cleaning and you will be all set." I nodded, feeling a little relieved. As he prepared the tools for the cleaning, he glanced at me. "You seem a little tense. Everything okay?" I laughed, though it came out more nervous than I intended. "Just not a big fan of the dentist." He smiled, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "I understand. A lot of people feel the same way. But you were doing great. Just relax and it will be over before you know it." I tried to take a deep breath, but as he started the cleaning, I felt my shoulders tensing again. His touch was gentle, but every time his hand brushed against my cheek, I felt my pulse quicken. I knew he was just doing his job, but the way he leaned close, the warmth of his body near mine, made it hard to keep my thoughts professional. Halfway through the cleaning, he paused, his eyes meeting mine. "You really are tense," he said, his tone softer now. "Let me know if anything feels uncomfortable." I managed a nod, but the truth was, it was not the procedure making me nervous, it was him. The way he looked at me, the way his hands felt when they brushed against my skin, it was all too much. I wanted to say something, but I did not know how to explain the thoughts racing through my mind. He continued working, and I closed my eyes, focusing on my breathing. But when I felt his hand rest on my shoulder, the touch lingering a little too long, I opened my eyes, meeting his gaze. There was something there, something more than just concern for a patient. "Is this okay?" he asked, his voice low. I nodded slowly, the tension between us hanging in the air. "Yes, it is." He held my gaze for a moment longer before he returned to the cleaning. But his touch felt different now, more deliberate, more aware. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks as he leaned close. And when he finished the procedure, he did not pull back right away. Instead, he stayed close, his breath warm against my skin. "You know," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I always enjoy our appointments." My heart skipped a beat, and I struggled to find the right words. "I do too." He smiled, and there was something different in his eyes, something that made my heart race even faster. "Good," he said softly, "because I have to admit I think about you sometimes. More than I probably should." I felt my breath catch, the room suddenly feeling much smaller. "Dr. Reynolds." "Call me Ethan," he said, his hand still resting on my shoulder. "We are not in a hurry, are we?" I shook my head, feeling the tension and excitement build. "No, we are not." He finished up the procedure, and I tried to play it cool. But my heart was still racing. I thanked him, and we exchanged a look that felt heavy with everything unsaid. I could not quite shake the feeling that there was more between us. But I did not want to make things awkward in the clinic. As I made my way to the parking lot, I felt a mix of relief and anticipation. I was almost at my car when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see Dr. Reynolds' Ethan walking towards me, his expression unreadable. "Hey," he called out, slowing as he approached. "I just wanted to make sure everything was really okay." I paused by my car door, my hand resting on the handle. "Yeah, everything is fine," I said, my voice a little steadier than I felt. He stopped a few steps away, his eyes meeting mine. "I do not know if that is entirely true," he said, a small smile tugging at his lips, "because I have not been able to get you out of my head." My breath caught, and I felt the heat rise to my cheeks again. "Ethan." He took another step closer, the parking lot suddenly feeling far more intimate than I ever thought it could. "I know this is not the most professional thing to say, but I like you, and I have a feeling you might feel the same." I did not know what to say. I felt a rush of emotions. The thrill of the moment making it hard to think clearly. Instead of responding, I rolled down my car window, leaning out just enough so our faces were inches apart. "Maybe I do," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. He leaned in, and before I could second-guess myself, he kissed me. It was gentle at first, as if testing the waters. But when I kissed him back, the intensity grew. His hand cupped my cheek. And for that moment, everything else disappeared, the clinic, the parking lot, all of it. It was just us. When we finally pulled back, he smiled, his thumb brushing against my skin. "I'm glad you feel the same," he said softly. I smiled back, feeling a warmth spread through me that I had not felt in a long time. "Me too." He stepped back, letting me roll up the window. "Drive safe," he said, his eyes lingering on mine. "And see you at your next appointment." I laughed, nodding. "Definitely." As I drove away, I felt the excitement and thrill of something new. This was not just another appointment, it was the start of something unexpected, and I could not wait to see where it led.